Are we live? Or is it Memorex? You probably don't remember that commercial. Hello, Albany. Good evening. You are joining us at the Albany Common Council Public Safety Committee meeting. Today is February 3rd, 2026. This is going to be the first meeting of the Public Safety Committee, and basically the information that we're going to be talking about is just introductory. We wanted to give the new committee members a chance to see the chiefs and also the CPRB coordinator, a chance to introduce themselves and to talk about, what services they do for the city. So joining me tonight are fellow Public Safety Committee members. We have John Williamson from the 1st Ward, Lorenzo Jones from the 4th Ward, Mark Robinson from the 5th, and Deidre Brody from the 6th Ward. And I'm Tom Hoey from the 15th Ward, and I'm the chair of this committee. So we also have our staff. We have Robert Wenner, who is our counsel and attorney. We have Carly Johnson. I always get thinking Brown for whatever reason. We have Carly Johnson, who is actually running our feed to the outside world. And we also have with us Garrett from the CPRB. And I have the 3 chiefs here, the chief and the deputy chiefs from the fire department. And we'll start with Chief Gregory. And if you can introduce your 2 chiefs, I'd appreciate it. And is the mic on?
Yes. So certainly. Good evening. As Councilperson Hoey mentioned, my name is Joe Gregory. I'm the Chief of Department for the City of Albany Fire Department. Tonight I'm joined by our deputy chiefs, part of our command staff. Deputy Chief Dave Newton is to my left, and Deputy Chief Brian Wolfgang to my right. First off, I'd like to thank you all for the opportunity to speak here tonight. I'm sure it's not lost on anyone in this room how important public safety is as a core foundational function of any city. Each of you on this committee plays an important role in helping our fire department, along with our brothers and sisters from the Albany Police Department, protect our city and foster a safe environment for those who live and work here. Now I'd like to give you all an inside look at your fire department, your Albany Fire Department, and the work we do every day to provide the highest level of public safety for our city and our residents. So I've distributed a booklet that we produced for you to reference, not only tonight, but you can take it home and take a look at it, that covers a lot of the information that we're going to speak about tonight. In addition, at the end of the end of the booklet, and the end of the booklet is a page with our contact information. So we provided you with that. Feel free to contact us if you do have any further questions regarding tonight's presentation, or if there's anything else that you may require from the fire department. It has our email address, and that also gives you our cell phone numbers. So, and I'm sure as you'll find out, we're available 24/7, and our phones are always on, so we're very reachable. So basically, we put together a presentation to talk a little bit again about the fire department and what we're all about. So who are we? Who is the Albany Fire Department? Well, we're the 3rd largest city department. Our mission, and you'll see in our mission statement, is basically protect from the effects of fire, respond to medical emergencies. We're the primary provider of EMS in the city of Albany, both basic life support and advanced life support. And I mean, overall, we provide life safety, property, and environmental protection. So we like to term ourselves, we're not just a fire department. We term ourselves an all hazards department because we cover so many different modalities. Yes, we do put out fires, and you see that quite often on the news. You'll see us out there. But in addition to that, as I mentioned, we provide emergency medical service. We basically bring the emergency department to your residence. We're the main hazmat responder for the capital region. We're the primary responder here in the city, but we're also part of a 4-county hazmat team, and we are the primary responder for that team. In addition to hazmat, we have technical rescue capabilities. We have marine operations. We have 2 vessels. One larger vessel that is stationed on the river during the summer months when the port is in major operation. And we also have a deployable vessel that's based in our Arbor Hill Firehouse. We do public education. We do inspections. We do vacant building inspections. We do school inspections. We work with daycare and do inspections on daycare areas, and we also are participants in the cabaret permits for the life safety and fire protection aspect. So that kind of tells you who we are and what we do. So how do we do it? How do we make it all happen? Well, we're a career fire department. We have 260 uniformed members, and just a point of interest, 36 members, current members of the 260 members are retirement eligible at this point. So, and that's something that's pointed out in your handout. In addition to our uniform staff, we have a support staff. It's not a very large staff, but they're very effective. We have 8 civilian members comprised of 3 mechanics, 4 clerical team members, and 1 part-time quartermaster who goes out and resupplies our firehouses with essential needs. So where do we do it? Well, we encompass the entire city of Albany, the 22 square miles of Albany. Within the city, we have 8 firehouses. So our makeup is 8 engine companies, 8 pumpers. We have 4 ladder companies. We have 1 heavy rescue unit. We have 3 independent, the smaller paramedic units. We have 4 paramedic units total, one of which is a paramedic engine company, and that's located up on Breveter Street. That does a dual role. And we have several command and support vehicles. We have an air supply unit. We have our training and safety. Our safety team goes out and responds to fires, and we have our fire investigators who respond out to investigate all incidents, and in addition to that, they also participated in a lot of community education. So again, how do we do it? Well, we have a very unique work schedule, and we hear many comments on it, but our members work hard and long hours. We work a 4-platoon schedule, and what does that mean? Our members are deployed throughout the city. They work 24 hours on duty, and then they have 72 hours off duty. So they work 1 day on and 3 days off. And a common misconception is that's an easy schedule, and it's not a very easy schedule. It's a very hard schedule on the body. It's a very hard schedule mentally and physically. These are the members that, while people are home, sleeping, warm in their homes on nights like this, our members will be out. Our members will be out on the street, on the highways, facing all these conditions. In your booklet on page 6, there's a diagram. It's a table actually that shows our calls for service breakdown, and what it does is we've divided up our calls for service and gave you a brief overview of that in a 4-year window. So you can reference that. It references just the different types of calls that we respond to. And we just categorized them as structure fires and then all other fires, and we broke down what that means in the booklet. There's information about our EMS responses, and you can see that EMS is a very big part of our job. We do in upwards of 60+% calls are EMS related. But again, that doesn't take away from the fact that we're also out there performing all those other duties. And again, that's why we refer to ourselves as an all-hazards department. When you look at our budget, and that's something that the members here will see quite a bit of, it shows that our budget is $44 million. But of that $44 million, only 7% is available to us for operating expenses. You'll see that the breakdown, and there's a chart in your handout also on that. It talks about personal services and benefits account for 93% of the budget. So right now, we perform our job with the limited funding of 7% of our entire budget. So what else do we do? So we like to say we're more than just a fire department. We're part of the community. We do community fire prevention events. We do interactive events. You may see our members out there. We have simulated fire scenes, which are all like a video screen with a laser water nozzle that helps not only children but adults take a look at how we operate and how our job performs. Many times you'll see our members having the community members dress up in our gear, don our gear to show what it's like to have to work in that type of an environment. We participate in many citywide programs. Our firefighters are active we are very proud of the fact that we have firefighters that are active in the Albany Firefighters Cancer and Disability Foundation. I'm sure you've seen our St. Patrick's Day shirts out there. Many of the shirts are starting, they just came available actually online. But they also do more than that. They support the Breast Cancer Foundation. There's a breast cancer awareness campaign, the Oktoberfest fundraiser, and a Movember fundraiser. So they're very, we're very active, and the issues with cancer are very near and dear to our heart because of the fact that many of our members can be afflicted with that because of the environments that we have to work in. We participate in the CDTA Pink Bus Pull, which gets money donated for cancer research. We're proud to say that we are 4-time repeat champions. We don't like to, well, we do like to brag about that. So, we'll say it, I'll say it again, 4-time repeat champions. We participate in the ALERT program, which is the Albany Law Enforcement Resolution Team. We were the first non-law enforcement agency to participate with Pastor David. And we're very active with that, and we participate in all the events, including the event that is conducted down at the MVP Arena. Our Engine 11, the members of Engine 11 took it upon themselves, and we're very proud of them doing a campaign to support the South End Children's Cafe. They do a back-to-school drive for the children. They do a Christmas toy drive for the children. So it's something that we, again, are very proud of, in the fact that our members are involved in the community here within our city. So that's kind of a brief overview of who we are. So my last point to talk about before we entertain any questions is how do you fit in with us? What do you have to do with us, for us? What do we do for you? And there's a bit of interaction. This Public Safety Committee is huge. That is a big supporter of, we hope, the fire service. And public safety in general. I mean, we partner, again, as we said, with our brothers and sisters at Albany Police. But the fire service, you can meet any firefighter anywhere, and we'll be proud to say, and we'll talk about our job all the time and tell you this is the greatest job in the world. I don't think you'll hear it any different from any of our 260 firefighters. So again, how do we interact with you? Well, budget issues. We have to every year we come about and make our presentation to you regarding the budget. As we mentioned, 7% of our budget goes to operate our department. When you look at departments across the state, or across the country actually, the average is 85 to 15% breakdown, 85% personal services to 15% operational expenses. You know, we make it work. We make it work. Our members make it work. You know, would it be nice to have additional funding? Absolutely. We're always out there looking for any additional federal grants or state grants that are available, but they're few and far between for career fire departments. And also, how do we deal with you, with the council members? Capital projects and bonding. We're required to come to the council to present our apparatus needs. When we look at our fire trucks, if you look at our fire engines, or fire trucks out there, the average pumper, engine company as we refer to them, is about $750,000 to $1 million to purchase just that vehicle. The ladder companies that you see, we have 4 ladder companies. You're talking somewhere in the area of $1.75 to $2 million for that piece of apparatus. So it's, you know, we are that costly child, but we feel it's well worth it. Safety is imperative on our job, and we want to make sure that our members are safe. They want to make sure that they're safe. We want to make sure that everyone goes home. So, you know, and we're also available, as we've had many instances, to come here and field questions on any fire safety issues regarding any legislation that comes up. We've been in contact with many members, previous members on the council, current members on the council, to be there to help to reference any fire safety issues that might account for it. We're an apolitical department. We talk about fire safety. That's what we're all about. Safety of the public, that's our main goal, is life safety. So that's basically it. That's who we are. If you didn't know who we are, many people wonder what goes on behind those red doors. And you know, we certainly extend the invitation to all of you to come and visit us. Come and visit us at our facility. We'd like to take you on a tour of our headquarters. We'd like to take you on a tour of our firehouse to show you how we live, and that's why we call them firehouses and not fire stations. We live there. We live there 24 hours a day. So even in headquarters, we joke, we put in 16 hours a day, you know, six days a week, 7 days a week sometimes we're here. But as we said, as I mentioned before, it's the greatest job in the world, and we wouldn't give it up for anything. So I hope that helps to shed a little light on what your fire department is all about, and we'd be more than happy to field any questions if
Thank you, Chief. And, you know, one of the problems I got is I've been on the committee for 8 years, so the stuff that, just to let everybody know, some of the stuff that we've done is a second set of, you know, your gear, because what the chief said about cancer rates among fire department, not only in Albany, but across the world. You're exposed to all sorts of chemicals, and sometimes you have multiple fires. So we were able to, through the budget process, get them an extra set of uniform, you know, like the raincoat and stuff like that, the heavy-duty gear. You also got, I remember Senator Schumer from the Senate, you got a grant, and I'm just wondering, do you still use that piece of equipment that, it was like the fire trailer?
Yeah, actually, we have, we were the first department in the country to actually have a mobile training unit that is basically set up now in the town of Colony training yard up off of Wade Road, because we don't have a training facility here at Albany. So that's up there, that we're able to simulate live fire situations for our members. They're able to do search through that to train them in, you know, it's a safe environment. It was again, a federal, FEMA grant that we were awarded money for. That was several years ago, and it has worked out very, very well for us. We've been lucky. We've been the recipient of many FEMA grants, and it takes a lot to write a FEMA grant, as I'm sure many of you know. It's very cumbersome. It takes even more work to administrate the grant and to follow up on that, because you know, we're kind of tasked with that also. We actually were just awarded most recently a FEMA grant, an Assistance for Firefighters grant, for the CPR assist devices. And if you watch any of the TV shows, I'm sure you've seen them on there. They do chest compressions on people, and we're in the process of purchasing them now. That's a $300,000 venture that we were able to you know, receive an award for that. It does come with a catch, though, as I'm sure you know. It comes with a 25% match from the city. So, but it's certainly, you know, for $50,000, we can get $450,000 worth of equipment. So it's very beneficial to us to go
Chief,
that route.
Can you talk about, because we're talking about the hazards, and you know, I work up at the university, and I know I was part of the nano development. Now, does the nano complex fall within your jurisdiction?
Yes, it does.
So, and do you have special training? Because I know the chemicals they use there, some of them are really, really very, very, I want to say deadly, but that's what they are.
Well, we, again, being the fact that our fire department is the lead agency in the hazmat response area, our members do have training. All our members are trained at a certain level for hazardous materials response, and they're, you know, basically at an awareness level, so they know when to go and when to stop. And you know, many of these facilities do present issues for us. It is very tough for us. There are many issues that we can't anticipate. We find them as we go along. You know, we work with the safety teams from the various facilities, whether it be Wadsworth Lab, the New York State labs. There's a lot going on in the city of Albany behind the scenes that we have to be very cautious of.
And how are you as far as staffing? Are you, you know, 100% or, you know?
Well, that's a great question, and you know, I think that leads into a good point to introduce a couple of our union members are here. Also, our union officials are here. So Jake Peach and Dave Galati are here to join us, and we appreciate them coming. We feel we have a great relationship with our union, and you know, I mean, we work together for the benefit of all of our firefighters. Yeah, that's kind of where, you know, that working together atmosphere is what makes things
But
work.
like now, do you have another list coming out or a test coming up? Or
Well, we're budgeted for 260 members right now, and currently we have 254 members on the roster. So we're very proud of that we're able to keep our staffing up. We also have an existing list that we worked very hard at in recruitment. We worked alongside of our human resources department to recruit, and the last exam, I believe, turned out about 300 plus, right around 300 people for our exam. And another thing that, you know, kind of a behind-the-scenes thing that we do is we've taken on the challenge of looking at these civil service exams. And I know not everybody's happy with the civil service process, but this is what we have to work with. So what we did was we tried to put together a program. The hardest part was passing the exam. You have to pass the exam. It all comes off a working list, but quite honestly, you have to score well, because it's such a highly competitive field. And we've given out and gotten feedback from many of the community members that have taken the exam that said they've never gotten such a high score as they did on their last exam, because we worked with them to show them how to take a written exam. You can't move forward unless you pass the written exam as the first, that's the gateway to our job. So we worked with them, gave them training materials to help them achieve a high score on the written exam. And if you take a look on the portal for the city, you'll see that a tremendous amount of, well, we have about 4 people with, or a few people with score of 105. They got some veterans credits, but we have quite a few people that are in the 100 range. We have quite a few people in the 95 range. So, I mean, you know, down to probably over 100 people that are eligible through the 95s, and then it just works its way down from there. But I think out of the entire exam, we had 1 failure.
And because I don't want to hog, I'm going to open this up for the rest of the committee to talk. I was at, and some of my fellow committee members were at the NICOM, which is New York State Committee of Mayors. One of the topics that came up and that they're working on is to have more state support for EMS services. And I'm looking at your numbers. Now, I don't know if they mean just volunteer or paid, but that's something, is that something that we should, you know, we're going to talk to my attorney to see if we can try to get, you know, some funding that way. I don't know, if would that be something that we should look into for you?
I mean, we're always open for funding.
Yeah,
You know?
sounds good.
We jokingly say a firefighter's favorite color is green. So we will, you know, but we would like, you know, we certainly would be open for funding. I don't know if you know, again, I'm not an expert on that, so I don't know how that would fare for the fire service. You know, we would appreciate any fire service, career fire service support from the state.
And we'll look into it. We won't do anything that would jeopardize your current funding or anything like that. Real fast, I just want to, it just packed in my head that when Senator Schumer was here, he was more amazed, not with the equipment, but that Chief Gregory was in the movie The Godfather as an extra down in Queens in the graveyard. So if you ever watching The Godfather and the graveyard scene, you'll see Chief Gregory when he was a younger man there. So I'm going to open it up. Any committee members? Go ahead, Mark.
First of all, I'd like to say good evening. I'd like to thank you and the department for coming out in front of the public safety meeting tonight. You know, it was a saying that my dad always said, that he commend firefighters because as they running into a fire, he'd be running away from a fire. So that's big of the department in itself. And I see here that, you know, you stressing that only 7% of the budget is non-personnel costs. So I know that you'll be in front of the full body, you know, seeing for assistance to make sure that during the fiscal year of 2026 that the fire department, you know, have the needs that it takes to address public safety.
We appreciate that.
No, thank you. I have a few questions to elaborate on. I see that in a 4-year span, when it comes to vacant building structural fires, that from 2022 to 2025, it was an increase.
Yes.
Can you explain reasoning that the increase?
I don't know if we could pinpoint it to any particular reason. We found that I don't know if there's really any particular reason that we can point to. You know, the availability of vacant structures, as an old chief once told me, vacant buildings don't start on fire by themselves. So, you know, there is a factor that comes into play there. You know, it's we try and do our due diligence in inspecting vacant structures that are out there. You'll see many buildings that are placarded. The placards are not there as to try and disrupt any community people. The placards are there for safety, public safety people. That tells us that we've looked at that in a normal day during the daylight hours, looking at the structure to see if is there anything that would threaten the safety of a firefighter or a police officer that has to enter that building any time of day or night. So if our firefighters are there, that's basically what the placards are there for. Reasoning for vacant building fires? There's a lot of them. So.
Like seasons, do you feel yourself responding to vacant building fires more in the winter than you do in the summer or spring?
We look at those numbers. We do notice an upward trend in the colder months. You know, again, from unhoused people seeking shelter. You know, but you know, it could be an accidental cause. So it's not nothing. You know, it's not always. We don't want to characterize it as a deliberate or an intentional fire. It could be an accidental fire by someone just trying to stay warm.
In doing your vacant building registrations and putting the placards, can you, you know, just a rough estimate, and what communities or what districts do you feel that you are responding to vacant building structures to actually place them placard?
I don't want to misspeak. We have data on locations of vacant structures within the city. You know, we work in conjunction with the Code Enforcement Division. So our members go out with code enforcement to look at all these structures and register them and make sure that they're on our radar, so to speak. But we do have mappings, heat maps on that. We do have mappings on it that we'd be able to share with you. But I don't have that. I don't have the exact numbers with me, so I don't want to misspeak.
I mean, if you could, we would definitely like to be able to identify, you know, what communities where most of these vacant structures lie. And finally, if you was to say that of these vacant building structures, would you say that in the interest of public safety, that these buildings need to come down and possibly for green space or new structure?
That's not a decision. That's not my decision. Quite honestly, that's not
on a
our,
personal
that's not
level,
our,
I'm saying you going in there, okay. So, no, we say that a vacant building been sitting because we know that they be sitting for years. So it could be a combination of water damage, like you said. This is just for the safety of the fire department.
Certainly.
Like you said, if you go in there, why would you want to go in a structure where that water damage has been coming in for 5 years, and then next you know you go in there to address the problem, and one of your firefighters find themselves on the ground floor.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, obviously, safety is a major concern of ours. Is a primary concern of ours. You know, my position here is not to give my opinion. You know, but again, we work in conjunction with codes, the codes division, who you know, would work together with a structural engineer to look at the integrity of the structures and decide and make a determination as to whether that building or that facility is structurally intact and may be repairable, may not be repairable. That's something that's out of our purview, to be quite honest with you.
I know, but just moving forward, Chief, you know, your opinion will mean a lot to constituents of the city to maybe have some input on these vacant buildings, because I get a lot of complaints from my constituents that not only is these buildings a fire hazard, a safety hazard, it's just an overall bad look for a community that's trying to grow. But I thank you for your time.
Yeah. Thank you. I don't disagree with you, but you know, again, you know.
Chief, can you explain the placard? Because I know there's different symbols on it. For the committee to know what it means.
The placards are there. It's a national standard that's set up. and also New York State abides by the standard. You'll see there are several types of placards. There's a placard that is an open box, just with white trim around the edge of the red placard that signifies that the structure is vacant. There's one placard that has one slash through it. It almost looks like a spare marking on during bowling, and that indicates that there are some issues within the structure, but it's safe for our members to proceed in and do what they have to do within a certain amount of time. And then the placards with the X on them are placards that we have either determined that there are some structural instability or some hazards within the structure for our firefighters, or the fact that we can't get into the structure to make that determination. So in the interest of safety, we will mark them with the X placard for our members. And you may see our members go in, and I mean, that's just something that, you know, we have full confidence in our firefighters. They have to make a determination. That's something that we've all been through. We all came up through the ranks. You know, firefighters have to make a split-second decision when we arrive at the scene of any type of an emergency, and it's, you know, 99%
Chief, just to
of the
clarify,
time
you
we're
say
right.
that the X is structural
Well,
integrity.
it could be, or it could be something that we can't get in to see, so we're unable to make that determination. We're not able to, you're not able to enter a structure if the owner or someone doesn't let you into the structure. We can't just walk into any vacant structure.
And the slash is vacant, but
The slash is that there is some safety issue that our firefighters would be concerned about.
thank you.
But, you know, again, it's not a total life safety issue that we.
Does somebody else want to ask? Do you have questions? Go ahead.
Thank you all again for coming tonight. This is, as a newer member of the council, I appreciate it enormously, and I appreciate the work you and your colleagues do every single day. We have, so I represent the 6th Ward, which is Park South and Center Square, and our neighborhood has had some real headline-making fires over the past couple of months. I'd love to work more closely with you on I think something you just raised around, and you as well, Councilmember, educating the public as to what the signage means a little bit more, and helping folks understand when a building is actually vacant. I think one of the things we've come across a lot in our neighborhoods is something appears vacant, but somebody might be doing work in the building, or, you know, the owner, whoever the owner is, private individual, a not-for-profit, a company, whomever, owns it, but is not doing anything with it. What I'm unclear about, and would love your help, and obviously building and code, is getting a better grasp of what defines vacant, and therefore helping the community understand what they need to be doing, either to alert you guys when there is a problem, or to proactively, hopefully, identifying them, situations before they become problems. Really, that would be my goal. So I'd love to take you up on the tour as well.
Absolutely.
I would hate for us to go between now and budget season and not see each other. So I would love to get into a little bit more of that. I think maybe when we can be out in the field and helping explain some of the more nuanced issues. As far as a question goes, so my career has been in the field of technology, and so I'm always looking through the lens of government and ways of implementing innovations in the technology space to better the safety of the people who are answering our emergency calls every day, and doing anything else around training and whatnot. I'm wondering if you or any other folks, if there's been any rumblings of the use of virtual reality for training purposes, or other applications of AI for what you're doing to, you know, primarily to keep the men and women of the fire department safe when responding to emergencies. And if the answer is no, that's fine too. I'm
Well,
curious.
You know, now that you bring it up, I mean, we met with the president and her staff from Maria College 2 years ago, and actually spoke about that because they were introducing that aspect to the nursing program.
Interesting.
And they had brought it up to us. There is no, not that we're aware of, there aren't a lot of AI-type setups for the fire service. There may be some apparatus or vehicles, we term them apparatus, you know, for apparatus driving training, driver training, that type of a setup, but you know, we have not really had good exposure to any of that yet. So things come across our desk every day that we look at, and you know, it would be great, whatever helps us out. I mean, again, we have 260 career firefighters. 99% of them are out in the field.
Yeah.
So, you know, the command staff and the training folks, it's quite limited, and I think that you'll see that when you do come down and visit us. So, 26 Broad Street, Albany, New York, 12202. So, they're always welcome. We're right behind the firehouse on the corner of Morton and Pearl.
And just another question, and I'll turn it over to any others who have questions. And now I'll have the same question out of a place of respect for what you guys do every day, and knowing that I would not sign up to do it, but I can imagine the effects of doing what you guys do can sometimes be very heavy on the people who are, as you said, you know, running towards the fire when everybody else is running away. Yeah, I'm running away too. I'm calling 911 and then leaving, getting the cats out of the house and leaving. I would love to know if you have any asks or thoughts on how either if you have established chaplain services or mental health services established for your teams, or if you would think about exploring that, if it's a need that you feel that we could explore as a sort of collaborative body as well.
Well, we appreciate you bringing that up. I think our executive board members here will also back me up on this one. We are very proud of we have a peer support team within our fire department. It's made up of obviously our members. It's a peer support, so it is our members. But we do have a very proactive peer support team that we've reconstructed in the past several years, and you know, we meet regularly with the team members and the team leadership to go over any issues. We, as a command staff, and our field bosses, our battalion chiefs, our platoon commanders, are very well aware of the capabilities of the team, and they are very proactive in different types of incidents that we encounter. We see, not to get into too far off the task here, but you know, we see a lot of things that people don't see, people don't want to see, you know, and you know, we're exposed to a lot of incidents, and you know, it does take a toll on our firefighters. If we see it, and we acknowledge that, and you know, we're proud to have a great peer support team within our department. We've also utilized our team to go outside of our department when there were issues in the hill towns, and they faced certain situations after fires. Our peer support team, we took our peer support team on the road to help support our Albany County sheriffs and the volunteers that are out in the community because of what a great job that our people do and the connections that they have. So yes, the answer, I guess, in a nutshell is yes, we do have something. Could it be better? Everything in our job could be better. I mean, we have such a dynamic job. It's you know, every day something new comes out, something changes. The materials that we face, you know, it's just amazing what we encounter every day. When you know, just when you think you know the rules, they change the game. That's kind of how it works for us. So,
thank you.
Thanks.
We're also joined by Council Member Alfredo Ballerin. Do any other committee members have any questions? John, go ahead.
Yes, my name is John Williamson, First Ward. Thank you very much, each and every you guys coming out. I greatly appreciate that. My question I wanted to know, do you have a program for our teenagers, what I mean by high school students that want to be firefighters? Are you going to start a program, or do you looking to have a program? Because, you know, when you're a senior, some of the kids may want to be a firefighter, taking them a tour on there, you know, as far as that, you know, taking examination, how to go about.
We do not currently, quite honestly. We do not currently. We're very open to discussion. We've been, we have made several visits to Albany High School. We worked with their ROTC program, but we do not have a formal program for that. The department is very open. The firehouses are very open to discuss. Again, I jokingly say, but it's very true. If you sit down and start talking with a firefighter about his job or her job, you better get comfortable, because we'll sit there and talk all night long about it, you know. So we'll sell the job. We're always looking to sell the job. But you know, the recruitment program that HR has helped us out with gets the word out, and that's a major start for us.
Now, how often does the test come out? You do it every 3 years, every 4 years, and what is the criteria, the age for men and women?
We look to have the exams every 2 years.
Okay.
So that just gives a good turnover on personnel. It makes it available to more people as the test rolls around. You know, and our average hiring class is somewhere in the area. It could be anywhere from like 6 to 15, 18 a year, I think, is what we've gone up to at some point. So it's firefighters are again, as career firefighters. This is a career. You see our members stay 20 plus years. So.
Yes. So. Thank you, I appreciate it. And also, last question is that, looking forward to working with you in the first ward. I know you guys been down there. We had several fires on Southern Boulevard, and also, I know you know one them out on Twiller Street. You know, the house burned down with the
tragic situation.
Tragic situation. So myself, I definitely want to work with you guys. You guys do a tremendous job. You know, saving lives, and you know, so. Thank you very much, Chief. I appreciate you and your staff.
Thank you. And I mean, we also, you know, look to elicit your help during exam time.
Okay, all right.
To get the word out. I mean,
all right, okay, thank you, I will.
It absolutely helps us.
Okay, all right. So I will stop by, or just give me the information, so I know any, you know, young people would like to be a firefighter, you know, do a workshop, or, you know, once the weather get warm.
Sure.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that, Chief.
Anybody else? Have any other questions? Well, if not, we appreciate it. Oh, go ahead, Alfredo.
I'll just say thank you. I don't want to take too much of your time. Thank you, Chief, for all that you do, and thank you to all the men and women that wear uniform day in and day out. I also always like to compliment the work that you guys do with the little guys, the little kids, at all the community events. My son loves the little
the hose,
the virtual hose, and it works because, like I mentioned at the finance committee meeting, we went to one of those outings, and then a few days later, he's asking me about where's our meetup space, where are we supposed to meet up?
Great.
And you know, so it works. It comes back home, and hopefully it gives parents the encouragement to do those lessons to make sure their kids and their family get home safe. So thank you for all that you all do, and I'm glad to hear that numbers are doing well and Mobile is doing well. So that's good to hear. Thank you.
Thank you. And fire service education is a major player. The young people absorb it so much, and they do bring it home. I mean, we've had many instances at a fire where you know, the family has told us that it was the young person who gathered them and you know, had them move to a safe haven and an assembly point. So it's very helpful. And also, truth be known, Councilperson, that we do have pictures of you using the fire hose, and so you were a participant also, and we do appreciate that. We do, when we're out, you know, at these events, please come by and participate. It's a great learning experience, and it's very enlightening, and I think that it helps to get the word out, the fire safety word. Safety is no accident, so.
Thank you, Chiefs. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
So next up, Chief Cox, we're going to get you shortly. I do have one public comment. Helen, do you want to slowly make your way up, and you'll be able to make your comment for us? Thank you, Helen, for your patience. Do you want to give us your name and, you know, if you're from Albany or not? I see here you are, but, and we can give you up to 5 minutes to speak.
Okay, grassroots groups in the West Hill neighborhood. And I would say that the placards are in themselves public safety hazards. The placards are invitations. Come on in, get warm. I understand people seeking warmth, but we know it's cold. We know people don't use shelters. The placards are invitations. And we've seen too many fires in the West Hill. It starts in a vacant building. And because of the housing stock, they're older homes, they're attached, you know more than one house is going to go down, and people are going to end up displaced, if not dead. I understand the rationale for the fire code, and I've heard it over and over. It's the New York State Fire Code. The little bit of research I've done says that the authority having jurisdiction can approve alternate materials or methods as long as safety is being provided. It would seem to me, in this technological age, you do not need a 2 by 3 foot placard. Again, that's an invitation. And it's happening in West Hill, it's happening in Arbor Hill, it's happening in the South End. I question how those decisions are made if the fire department is not allowed in the building. I get you're erring on the side of caution, but are you noting buildings as unsafe that could in fact be redeemed? And I also question what's going on as far as the boarding up. There was a fire on Clinton Avenue a few months ago, Clinton, east of Ontario, and we were told that was boarded up 8 times. This is not working. This is not working. And you're jeopardizing people's lives. The placards, you know, I've always appreciated what Chief Cox said about safety is perception, it's not numbers. The placards create this impression of this is not a safe neighborhood. You can't go here. I'm a volunteer with Friends of Tivoli Lake Preserve and Farm, and I do tabling, and I invite people on walks, and there are so many people who say, I would never go in that neighborhood. And that's because the placards create this impression that nobody cares. There's nobody around, nobody cares, and it's demoralizing to the neighbors. I very much agree with, what my, Mark is my common council person. People feel like the city doesn't care. It's easier to slap a placard on it than it is to say, what can we do to redeem this building? What can we do to rehab it? What can we do to make the people in these older structures that share a wall, to make them safe? So it's an issue of physical safety, it's a perception of safety, it's a lack of trust. This has been going, 10 years ago, Mayor Sheehan said, oh, the placards, now we get accountability. No, it's not happening, and it's gonna get worse. as the county starts to foreclose on buildings and sell them at auction. And I realize I'm getting very emotional about this, but hearing Chief Gregory talk about the placards as public safety measure, no, they're not. The reality is, and God bless firemen, as Mark says, they run in when we run away. But the reality also is that if they go to a building, if it's got a big X on it, if they perceive something can be done, they will go in. The person on the ground makes that decision. They don't stay away because the placard's gone. Again, God bless them. But once they're in there, all the other buildings are going to go down. I don't know the solution. These placards are a hazard, and they're demoralizing, and they're unsafe, and they're ruining neighborhoods. And that's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
You're welcome. And what we might try to do, we might bring public safety, we'll bring codes in. And it's worth a discussion. And I know Mark is, I heard it tonight, so we're not going to just say we're not going to do anything about it. Let us look into it.
Well, I would say you don't have enough people in codes. Codes is limited too. I mean, you can be in a house and see people entering through the back, but if nobody else sees that, there are ways for people to seek entry that are not visible from the street, and I know there's limits to what codes can do. They can only do what's visible from a public area.
But it's codes that put up the placards, so that's what I'm trying to.
That's right, what?
Codes put up the placards. That's where that comes.
Codes put the placards up at the instruction of the fire department. Yeah.
Okay. I'll
That's what I've been
follow
told.
through.
The fire department makes the decision because it's based on the safety of their personnel. That's what I've been told. I could be wrong, but my understanding is fire department makes that decision.
Excuse me,
Thank
Chair, if I may add, I believe Ms. Helen is correct with that, because there was a situation where code enforcement was at a piece of property, and they actually called the fire department, and the fire department made the decision to put the plat up. I witnessed that.
Bobby,
Ms. Helen, I want you to know that during the end of this, our public safety, I will ask the chair to actually bring in the code department, and I will actually let you know when they're coming.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for coming out.
Bobby, can you look into for us about what the legal steps are for the placards Thank you. And we are going to, Mark, I did say, I'll definitely bring codes in. I mean, it's part of public safety.
Could we have a joint meeting of buildings and codes and public safety?
Is there another committee? I don't think we have a committee for building and
Oh,
codes.
we do, and I'm on it.
Oh, buildings and code enforcement, absolutely. I see it now. I always think of it as law, but you're right, it's building and code enforcement. Definitely.
Okay.
All right, next up we have Albany Police Department, Chief Cox. Thank you for waiting and welcome.
Good evening. How's everybody doing?
Good evening, Chief. Just to introduce the committee, we have John Williamson from the 1st Ward. We have Lorenzo Jones from the 4th Ward. We have Mark Robinson from the 5th and Deidre Brody from the 6th. And we're also joined by, Alfredo from the, Alfredo, you're the 11th, right? Yep. So welcome, Chief. This is just a meet and greet, and we'll probably have questions for you. Unfortunately, that's how. But if you'd like, just talk about Albany Police and.
Absolutely. So no, thank you for having me down tonight. I apologize for being late. I had an appointment. Try to keep my wife happy every once in a while, so I told her I would meet her at 4:30, so I did that. So I don't have a lot prepared. I'll try to leave a lot of time for questions. So as I think you all know, so for the Albany Police Department, I think I'll just name a couple of things that we have going on and a couple of strategic goals that we're really working on. So obviously, we always work on crime. For overall, our crime numbers have been at pretty close historic lows. But when it comes to public safety, it's not always about crime statistics. So we have an issue within the city when it comes to perception. So, I think what Helen talked about, when people look at our city, they don't always feel safe. So we have to address the fact that we have crime numbers that are going down, both from our violent crime numbers were down about 17% last year. Our gun crime was down significant. The number of people shot in the city last year was down about 60%. There's no shooting that's ever acceptable, but our shootings were down significantly. Our property crime was down about 19%. So we had significant decreases. And when you look at it year by year, we don't just compare what 2025 was compared to 2024, we also look at our 5-year crime data. So our crime data was down significantly, not just 24 to 25, but also in the past 5 years. But we also have to deal with the fact that we're not just looking at crime data, we're looking at the fact that we have a lot of folks in our city that are unsheltered, we have folks that have unmet behavioral health issues, and we have those issues. Those are issues that people ask the police to deal with, even though, quite frankly, those aren't police-related issues. But that doesn't mean that we don't have a role to play. That doesn't mean we aren't called to respond to those issues. Simply put, we are called to respond to those issues. So we have to continue to come up with strategies to address those. So we have several strategies to try to address those. We have law enforcement assisted diversion, and we started this year the community advocacy response team, the CAR team. So we have a group of social workers that are now out in the street. They work Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to midnight, and they are working in both a co-responder model, and by co-responder model, I mean they respond with police officers to calls for service, unsheltered, folks that are unsheltered, folks with unmet behavioral health issues, issues in the community that might benefit from having people respond in a non-traditional manner. And then they also respond in an alternative response mode. And that is a response that we have not implemented yet. That is going to be coming, I think we're going to get that off the ground in the 3rd week of February. And alternative response means that instead of going with police officers, they will respond on their own. So they're in pairs, but they'll actually go to calls on their own and be able to respond and address some of those issues on their own. Everybody that calls the police, they still call the same normal way they would. They call 911 or 438-4000, and our dispatchers make the determination on who to send. So they make a determination of whether or not to send the police, whether or not to send the police and the CAR team together, or whether or not to send the CAR team by themselves. The CAR team works directly for the police department, so ultimately the CAR team has direct access to the officers. So if by chance police get there and decide, hey, I could use a CAR team member, they can get the CAR team member on the radio. If a CAR team member gets there and realizes, hey, I could really use an officer because the person happens to be escalated, they can get an officer on the radio and have an officer come there. So we got that off the ground in September. It's been successful. It's been a lot of learning for us. We'll continue to adapt as we need to, but that's been an interesting thing, and I think that will continue to grow for the city. We would eventually like to see that go 24/7, but we obviously need to make sure we have the right staffing in order to do that. But that will help enable us to do a lot of things, including making sure the people get the right services. That also allows us to do follow-up. So many times there's people that need access to services, access to resources, and need short-term case management, and that team's able to do that. So our officers many times are trying to get from one call to another, trying to address different needs, and the CAR team can take the time to build a relationship with somebody, can ultimately try to figure out why it is that this person happens to be unsheltered, why this person isn't getting the access to the mental health services they need, and they can ultimately really get connected. And they also have time and resources to be able to be connected to the service providers. So they're connected very closely to Albany County Mental Health. They're connected to the New Street Psychiatry Initiative that we helped, that's being launched downtown, that gets medical professionals out on the field to be able to get people mental health services right down the street, recognizing that not everybody's going to get into a clinical setting. So that was one big initiative that we were able to get off the street, but also just recognizing the fact that public safety is more than criminal activity. It is recognizing that there are a lot of behavioral health issues, other issues that add to the perception of people being unsafe that we're trying to address and trying to make sure that we have the right people in place to try to address those. So that is kind of the public safety end of the response of what we try to do. When it comes to some of the goals we're trying to meet, we have been understaffed for a number of years. And we've been understaffed not only on the police side, but we've been understaffed within our dispatch center and within some of our non-sworn positions. So we've had very much a focus in the last year to do a very integrated recruitment efforts for both police and dispatchers. Those have been two key focuses. We've hired 2 classes for our police recruits, done a really good job with that. We just got 1 class that came off of field training. We have a class that's now in field training, and we have a class that's in the police academy now. So we continue to try to increase our police recruiting. We joined the 30 by 30 initiative, which is recognizing that there are certain segments of the population that have been kind of left out when it comes to policing. I'm kind of old. I came out in 1994. Most of the people that were being recruited for policing positions look like me, white males. So the 30 by 30 recruiting efforts is very much focused on trying to look at women in law enforcement, not only from a recruiting effort, but also from retainment and recognizing support. So we had just joined that effort. So there's a lot of different ongoing efforts we have when it comes to recruiting and retainment. We also recognize, I know Chief Gregory talked about civil service. One of the things we're looking to do this year, so we have a current active civil service list through New York State. We're going to take part in the April New York State Police Civil Service Test. I'm hoping that that is the last and final police civil service test that we ever take part in from New York State. In the fall, we will start providing our own city civil service test, so it will still be a civil service test, but it will be a city civil service test. It will enable us to be able to give the test multiple times a year. Now, I want to be upfront. We give the test twice a year now through New York State. However, this will allow us to give the test as many times as we want it. If we wanted to give a continual test at basically on demand, we could. We probably will not do it on demand, but it will allow us to give it as many times as we want. Probably we'll do it 4 times a year. And it will allow us, because the problem with New York State Civil Service is that when we give a test, that test is scheduled, I think, for April 12th, it will be at least 4 months before we get scores back from New York State. So that means somebody takes the test in April, they have to wait 4 months before we even give them a test score. We lose people in those 4 months. Then we have to start the process of actually doing the background check, doing a physical agility test, doing a medical test, and a psychological test, which takes another minimum of 3 months. So that's a 7-month hiring process. So back when I took the test, when there were 2,000 of us taking the police test, that was fine. There are not 2,000 people taking the police test anymore. There are 300 people taking the test. We cannot live with that anymore. Generation Z does not want to wait 7 months to get a job. They will take whatever job gets offered to them. That is the generation that we live with. It's a different generation. So this will enable us to get scores within a week and start processing right away. It will put us at a very big advantage because outside of the state police, we will be the only police department outside of the New York State Police that's able to be able to do this. So we are in the process of doing that. So hiring and retention is one of the big goals. For our dispatchers, when I came back, we were down, I think we were down 17, 18 dispatchers. We are now in single digits. We are continuing to work on that to make sure that we have the right amount of dispatchers working. And then we've done a couple of additional things, both for police officers, but then overall recognition of what we can do. So we hired back, and I appreciate all the help here because we had to do a number of things to change the budget around in order to do this. We hired back retired police officers as special patrol officers to be able to recognizing that there were a group of retired officers that wanted to come back and perform specialty duties, work the desk. That allowed us to be able to get back some of our officers that had retired, who had expertise, who had knowledge, who had ability, and also then could free up other officers to do other duties. We were able to hire, we have 7 current officers that have been hired back, and I think we just offered 5 additional people jobs, and we will continue to grow that program. That will continue to help us to address some of our staffing shortages. And then the last thing I'll touch on is health and wellness. Health and wellness is the #1 priority, so certainly hiring and retention is a huge priority, but health and wellness trumps everything. There is no doubt that we are burning officers out. Officers are being mandated to work 16 hours a day at times, sometimes 5, 6 days a week. When I first came back, they were being mandated 7 days a week. That was not acceptable. People were not getting days off. So we've worked closely with the union to come up with some agreements. Right now, we've guaranteed officers 2 days off. We're about to make some tweaks on how we ultimately distribute overtime to try to make some adjustments based on some of the ways that that's working. But at the end of the day, we're trying to make sure that officers get days off. We're trying to make sure that officers' physical, mental, psychological well-being is taken care of. About 3 weeks ago, for the first time ever, we started a new employee. It was a new position, a director of health and well-being. That is working out extremely well. We will continue to grow that initiative, but that is to really recognize that we've had an employee assistance program. The employee assistance program has been extremely successful. We have a group of dedicated women and men that have worked that both from our sworn and non-sworn positions, but they are doing that on top of their full-time jobs. So we wanted to make sure we had a dedicated employee that was building out our programs, that was making sure that our officers, our non-sworn, our dispatchers, all of our employees had the support that they needed, that their families had the support they needed. Because too often we see officers see traumatic incidents. We see people get burned out. We see negative things impacted. And we tend to only react after a critical incident, and we want to stop only reacting when a critical incident happens. We want to be proactive. We want to make sure that our employees all have the support that they need. We are a family, and we're supposed to act like a family and make sure that everybody has those resources that they need up front. We constantly get called to make sure that everybody else gets taken care of. We have to take care of our own. So that's been a big initiative that's just gotten off the ground. We've started to provide some additional resources for our team to make sure that they and their families can be taken care of. So I'll stop there and certainly answer whatever
Thank you,
questions
Chief. Many of us were at the NICOM conference. It's actually ended today, but Sunday, Monday, today. One of the things they brought up was they're trying to change civil service law that if you retire, right now you're limited to $35,000 a year. They want to raise that to $50,000. Is that something that we could do, like a resolution to our representatives? Would that be something useful for, because you're saying that you're bringing back some retirees?
So I think that would definitely help. One of the provisions that helped us out bringing back the retired officers is during COVID, they created the Special Patrol Officer. The Special Patrol Officer has allowed us, because of the fact that The requirements are you have to be a retired police officer. They allow us to get a waiver, so that way there is no cap. So we're okay. I think one of the things that we should look at, though, and one of the things that might help more, and please, this is not, like my waiver gets capped because I came back to work for my agency, so I wanna be transparent. This is not an ask for me. This is to bring other qualified people back. I don't think there should be a cap. Like, I get it that people feel there's this double dipping. The simple fact of the matter is that, you know, I'm not gonna apologize for the fact that I could retire when I was 43. I wasn't retiring and going away to do nothing, and I didn't leave when I was 43. I left a few years after that. But if we have qualified people that can come back here and provide a good service to the city, we should take advantage of that. I also think the other thing we need to look at is we need to look at the retirement system, because when we went to Tier 6, that created an issue for a whole host of officers. Like, I think one of the reasons why we wound up mandating so many officers to work overtime, when I came on, because of the tier I was in, I was gonna volunteer to work every bit of overtime as possible. There's a lack of incentive for our officers to work overtime right now, partly because they're in Tier 6. I think we need to fix the tiers. I understand that there's a fiscal number on that for the state, but at the end of the day, we've lost qualified officers because they realize, why am I gonna work all these hours if that is not gonna count towards my retirement system?
Definitely look into that. Couple of real fast ones. We have a new class of CPRB members. Is there going to be training coming up that we'll be able to get them trained, and do you know?
Yeah, we'll make sure that they get into the next round of the Citizens Police Academy.
Okay. And
Plus anything else, Tom, anything else they need.
and then the other thing is, I know Chief Gregory invited everybody for a tour. Is there a way we can get a tour of headquarters?
Absolutely.
We'll set it up.
Headquarters or any of the other buildings, absolutely.
Okay. And then my last thing, before I open up the floor, is from the 12th Ward, Rachel Powell was talking to me. She was at the NICOM with me. She was talking about legislation, but I just would rather reach out to you and find out. Her ward is the 12th, and that has Washington Avenue Extension, actually where the police academy is. There's real problems, mostly in the summertime, with drag racing. Would legislation help combat that, or is it, you know, what can we do about that? I told her you were here tonight, and I said I'm going to ask you.
Yeah, so there's two things. So legislation would definitely help us out. So there is some legislation that we were working with the district attorney's office around that would help us to increase penalties and seize vehicles that are involved. So that legislation would definitely help us out, and we can make sure that the committee has a copy of that legislation that would work. And then the other thing, too, is I think working with the state, recognizing that while Washington Avenue Extension, the Department of Transportation has control over that, if they would let for some environmental changes to that road happen, that could also probably permanently take away the drag racing. You know, them just simply putting groove marks in the roadway would take care of it, but we need the state to actually do that. But the legislation, absolutely, we could do here at this body, and then getting DOT to actually step up and stop being an impediment.
Okay, I'll get Rachel involved on that. Thank you. I'm opening up to the floor. Anybody have questions for Chief Cox? Go ahead.
Thank you for coming tonight. I know we've been working together in the 6th for quite a while, so I appreciate enormously the opportunity to hear from you in this body. I know you and your teams have been incredibly responsive to what's going on citywide, but in my neighborhood in particular. I just wanted to thank you and the entirety of your team for what you do every day. I think one of the things that I would be remiss if we did not talk about tonight is the relationship between Albany Police Department and all other law enforcement agencies locally, so the sheriffs, the Albany County Sheriff and New York State Police, and then also what we're seeing increasingly with federal law enforcement and ICE showing up in neighborhoods. No assumptions on sort of, you know, I know we've heard from you and other, ACPAC and other different organizations that you don't get involved. Just like, I think the analogy you used helped me really understand the relationship with, like, you don't get involved with the IRS when they're enforcing tax law, so getting involved with ICE is not anything your department is or has been doing. I'd love to understand a little bit more of how that's going, and also what is or is not happening in collaboration with other levels of local law enforcement who we're much more used to seeing and are not as terrifying a force on our streets.
So thank you, I appreciate that. So I'll start with the local and the state first. So we have partnerships with all local, state, and truthfully all federal as well. Federal when it comes to true public safety, when it comes to public safety and criminal activity. When it comes to New York State Police, we have an ongoing partnership where the New York State work with us usually once a week and come into the city, and we actively work with them on patrol and doing some enforcement efforts, and it's very coordinated. And that's been an ongoing effort that we've had in place, I want to say it's probably been close to a year that's been going on. And they work that very much in a coordinated effort where there's communication with our supervisors, where they're on the police radio, where we know exactly what they're doing, they know what we're doing, and it is a coordinated effort. With the Sheriff's Department, the sheriffs are very much embedded in the city. They're very much active, but they are doing that separate and apart. That being said, if I need something from Sheriff Apple, I call Sheriff Apple. If Sheriff Apple needs something from me, he calls me. But it is not that same coordinated effort where they're on the radio or they're on our computer-aided dispatch. I will say this for both the state police and the sheriff's office, even in the coordinated state police efforts, they're not answering calls for service. They're working proactive details with our officers. So they might be doing traffic enforcement. They might be doing a very coordinated effort of, hey, we want to do high visibility patrol somewhere. Same thing for the sheriffs, even though they're working their own work, they're not answering calls for service. So, you know, when somebody calls 911 or 438-4000, the sheriffs are not being dispatched to calls. The only time that they would be getting dispatched is if we make prior arrangements. So there has been times where, because of something we had going on, we had asked the sheriffs, hey, can you cover for a certain time because we're not able to do something. So the sheriff has done that for us, and I appreciate the fact the sheriff's done that. When it comes to federal agencies, we have members of our department that sit on task forces with the FBI and the DEA and the ATF and the Marshals Task Force that are very much focused on violent crime. And those interfaces are very coordinated through our detective division and very much focused on cases that tie in usually to our gun violence or have a nexus to issues that we're dealing with within the city or the region, and we make sure that we coordinate those. We also host the Capital Region Crime Analysis Center that sits right in police headquarters. We have a large contingent that works for the police department that's there, but there's also county, other local police departments, and state officials that work right in that building. So we're constantly getting other information and intelligence from the region that's coming in, and we're sharing that with others as well right there. So there's a lot of things going on in headquarters at times with other agencies coming in that we're also aware of. When it comes to ICE, as you mentioned, our policy, the city's policy, our police department's policy, is that we do not do civil immigration enforcement. Civil immigration enforcement is not the role of a local police department. First of all, it's extremely complicated. Second of all, it's got a key word in there, civil. It's not criminal. The only time we ever get involved in working with ICE or Homeland Security on immigration enforcement is if there is a judicial warrant that is attached to an individual. And I'm just going to use an example, a hypothetical example, but I think that's just the best way to explain it. If we arrest somebody, if I get arrested, and my criminal history, once my fingerprints are taken, my fingerprints get taken and my criminal history comes back, it's going to show if I have any warrants. A judicial warrant is going to show up on that there's a warrant out of the federal government for an immigration violation. A judge has signed that. I do not, as a police officer, I'm playing two roles here, as a police officer, I do not have any discretion but to hold somebody on a judicial warrant. What we do not enforce, and what we do not ultimately hold people on, are detainers, because a detainer is a request and it's not signed by a judge. So detainers are, again, back to the civil end, and we do not ultimately enforce detainers, nor do we run a jail. So at the end of the day, those do not involve us. I know that ICE is in the city, but ICE does not communicate to us. They do not let us know when they're in the city. They do not let us know when they're taking action. I sometimes get texts, emails, calls from people and say, hey, you know, we saw ICE here, you know, what do you know? I normally don't know anything. Sometimes what I find out is like, no, that wasn't ICE, that was us, just because you saw, you know, I'm pretty sure somebody's pointed out my car before, like, no, that black Ford Expedition, that was me. You just saw me driving down the street, that wasn't ICE, that was just me. So there are certainly times, and I understand that. I know the community's concerned, they're scared, they're traumatized, and that's all understanding. But because we don't take part in civil immigration enforcement, and I don't think we should, I think we also have to understand that because there's no street where we're going down to meet ICE on that end, ICE isn't going to turn around then and say, hey, we were in your city and we picked up 3 people, or hey, we're over here. Because there's no one-way street and there's no two-way street. So we're not getting any information back. And like you said, I use that example every time. I used that last week at a press conference. We don't do tax enforcement. I don't do immigration enforcement. It wouldn't be appropriate. There are a lot of people that are scared. I think in the past week, I've gotten a number of calls from a number of people, you know, asking, you know, what happens if somebody comes to my temple? What happens if somebody comes to my school? You know, the easiest answer that I have for everybody, and this isn't an easy answer, is that ICE is, and the Border Patrol folks, they are law enforcement agents. So if they come, you have to understand they are law enforcement. That doesn't mean they have a right to just do anything, just like I don't have a right to do anything just because I'm law enforcement. So you have a right to question them. You have a right to ask them what they're doing. And if it's private property, or, you know, there's a right to say you can't come in, you can say, I want to see a warrant. You have all those rights to do. And you can certainly call us, and we can certainly come, and we can certainly try to mediate. But what we can't do as the police is we can't interfere with what other police are doing. That's something we can't do, and I can't give that directive to the officers. And I know you're not asking this, but I've had other people at other meetings be like, well, I want you to stand in the way of ICE and protect people. You know, I understand that sentiment, but again, I can't stand in the way of, you know, listen, there's laws I don't agree with, personally, but as a law enforcement official, I can't stand in the way of another law enforcement official enforcing a law.
Thank you for that. I think, I know you and I have had this discussion in the past, but I think it's more, you know, for the public record, I think it's important to document these types of things considering the times we're living in. Second question, and then I'll turn it over to anybody else who has, I think one of the, I think there's a history of having a rich array of health and human services in Albany County and the surrounding area, and having the CART team, the street psychiatry program, Navigates, and a number of other individually engaged not-for-profits in the area, some who are actual shelters, some who serve people who are in all different stages of need. I think that's a great thing. One of the things I know from working in this field is that oftentimes everybody has the best of intentions, and then sometimes the complexities of either technology or legal requirements around data sharing, or just people's calendars, being crazy like they are, doesn't allow for perhaps the level of coordination, collaboration, and specific intervention that some of the very high needs individuals we know in our neighborhoods would probably benefit from. Not necessarily for an answer tonight, but I'd just love to know how the council can be supporting APD, County Department of Mental Health, Navigates, all the other folks who are working in this avenue, to make sure that we are facilitating timely, accurate, and complete sharing of data on who's doing what, where, for the benefit of which individuals or groups of folks, so that not only are taxpayer dollars being spent wisely, but the intention of these, all these different interventions becomes reality. Again, this is not a comment on, I think it's fabulous that people are actually investing in these services. What I would love to learn more about in partnership with you and your team and all the others I just mentioned is what we can and should be doing to coordinate efforts and make sure that the left hand and the right hand know what each other's doing through all of this, whether it's through formal policy, whether it's through investments in different types of technology, MOUs from the city to be able to release data. I know when you get into the realm of HIPAA and that it's very complicated very quickly. So I don't mean to shortchange that tonight. But what I would say is that you'd have at least my support. If not, I would hope the Public Safety Committee's support in really looking at that issue going forward. And please be bold in the ideas that come forward, and don't, and know that we will be asking those questions going forward as well.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that, because I think we do a really good job when it comes to sharing information, when it comes to, and that's why I said what I said opening up. We think about public safety. We do a really good job of sharing information when it comes to crime. And, when I say about solving crime, that doesn't mean everybody needs to go to jail, but like, if person A commits a larceny in Colony, and then Cohoes, and then Waterville, who lives in Albany, we all wind up ultimately, all the databases wind up ultimately talking to each other, and we'll ultimately figure that out. At the same point, to your point, if that person A is having a mental health breakdown in all those 5 places, and there's 3 service providers involved, no one knows. And HIPAA, very well intentioned, is one of the barriers to why none of us know.
One of the key words in HIPAA is portability, though. It is not just protection.
Yeah.
And I think that's an avenue that we're realizing at the federal level and across all the states where I work in for my day job. I work in the field of child welfare. Child welfare data is some of the most protected, especially when you combine it with DV and health and whatnot. I think there are certain municipalities that I've been seeing that are willing to say, instead of saying that's not allowed, are gaining support and saying it's not been allowed in the past. Let's figure out how it could be in the future. And I'd love to work with the right, like you said, cohort of stakeholders and different agencies across the private not-for-profit sector and healthcare providers and law enforcement to make sure we're hopefully shifting that thinking in the future. So, thank you.
John?
Thank you very much, Chief. Appreciate it coming out. Just a couple of questions. One of the questions I wanted to ask you, pertaining the Common Council, if it, hope and pray, God, I hope everything's going good as far as that, with the violence, but when is there like a gunshot or a murder, why is that the Common Council is not notified? The reason why I believe it's important because some of the constituents that might have a great report with them, and I believe that if we can get a text or something that to notify that, for we can be there if something happened, because I'm turning on channel 13 or channel 9 and, oh wow, so-and-so got shot or so, and I just got speaking to their mother or their father, and that would build a good relationship between APD and the Common Council. That's one of the questions as far as that. The next question is that I know you said that a class is going to be graduating. My thing is that young men and young ladies of color, how can I myself get them on board, as far as that to be peace officers? I will help you out any way I can. What if, to get them on board. I think it's the reason why I say it's important because they know the areas and they can relate to them, and it will make Albany great. But them are the two questions.
Yep. So both great questions. Thank you very much. So to the first question, so there is a texting notification. So the updated list just got to us.
Okay.
So you should be getting notifications. I will tell you this, that the way social media is these days, and some of the culprits, so I was looking more over my right shoulder,
Okay.
some of the culprits that get on social media before we even have a chance to investigate whether or not something's happened, you're going to find out things in the neighborhood, or you're going to find out sometimes things in the media before we have a chance to even get something out. That's the evil of social media.
But I think that
it's the evil of some people just not giving a chance before they decide to get a click. But that being said, we do have a system in place. Megan Kraft is our public information officer. She coordinates with myself, my deputy chief, my staff, that we do get those notices out, and you guys are on it. But there was a hiccup when you guys all came in. We still had the old list, and we just got that updated. So you guys should be starting, if you're not getting those yet, it's been, I'm not going to say anything.
Okay.
But those, you should start to get those. And we can always try to make things more frequent and try to update things. And you can always call me. If you don't have my cell phone, grab my cell phone.
Yeah, because I think that'd be important because they see the Common Council there with the chief of police or the officers. It's like a family. Is that if you're bringing there by yourself or with the other officers and we not there, I think, to grow this great city, as the Darcy mayor is going to be doing. So I think we have to come together, as a family.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And then to your second question, we will take all the help possible in recruiting, especially recruiting young men and women of color.
Okay.
So we started a strategic goal. It was actually under Chief Krokoff when I was deputy chief, called Winning Over a Generation. Okay. And Winning Over a Generation was actually it was twofold. One was to get more engaged with our youth from our police officer standpoint of actually being able to just build relationships with our youth in a positive light.
Okay.
But the second piece was really more strategic about the recognition that many of our young men and women, especially young men and women that don't look like me,
Okay.
might not want to be cops.
Okay.
You know, and that they might be like, why would I want to do that? Like, I mean, you know, I grew up in a neighborhood that's not what I look like I want to do. So that part of that goal was to have our youth, especially our youth of color,
Okay.
recognize like, no, this is a good job.
Yes,
Like
it
that's something that I could do and I can make a big difference in. And I can also make a good living at.
Yes.
So like, let me do it. And like we have some really good young and some older officers of color that are great mentors
Okay.
to our youth. So I'd love to connect more and talk more about it.
Okay.
Just like, I mean, listen, getting that word out, because I'm sure there's some young men and women out there that you know that you can put
Yes.
your arm around and be like, no, this is like, go take this test, go talk to this officer, go take a look at this. We have an Explorer program for our high school kids that they can get involved in and they can see what it's like to be in law enforcement. We have a cadet program for our 19 to 24-year-olds. That's actually it's basically a paid
Okay.
internship program. We do have an official internship program for kids that are in college to
Okay.
be able to come back. And then, I mean, we also talk to a lot of our youth about like, hey, if you're getting paid $12 an hour, or whatever the minimum wage is now,
Right.
at Target, like, come work for us part-time. Like,
Okay.
and like, realize you can make a good living, get health care, do a lot of different things. So there's a lot of programs. And I'll tell you what, with our 3 school resource officers, they each got initiatives going at their schools.
Okay.
Nick Schuler, who's at all, I want to talk about all of them, but I'm just going to at least throw one out. Like Nick Schuler, he just started a lifting program at Albany High because we try to listen to what the kids want.
Okay.
Because some of the kids, like, I think they were goofing around one day inside and that school's beautiful, inside the weightlifting room, and the kids were like, oh, you guys lift? To the officers, and they're like, yeah. So the officers, things always come up the chain of command to me, and they're like, hey, can we start a weightlifting program? I'm like, go, do it, please, have fun.
Yes.
So, I mean, these guys do everything, I mean, it's the amount, Lawan Cancer every year brings a group
Yes.
of kids to Washington, D.C. I think they'll be doing that in April. And the whole point of that, again, that came from winning over a generation, was like, we got to get the kids out of Albany every once in a
Yes,
while. Like,
yes.
they got to see there's a world.
Totally
Like,
agree.
it's like, okay, like, they need to see this. So, I mean, it's the more help out there with the recruiting. And listen, even if the kids just get to know our officers a little bit better,
Yes.
that's
I
a
agree.
win.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate it. I'll definitely be in contact with you with the programs for our youth. I pay you. Appreciate it.
Go ahead, Mark.
Well, Chief, welcome back.
You too, Mark.
On your retirement, we had some very critical conversations on certain initiatives, surrounding the guns involved violence elimination program. One of the counter proposals that I had, and we had conversations about, is a teenage curfew. And at that time, you wasn't for it. I believe, and I don't want to misquote you, that you said that you didn't want to be a babysitter. Right now with the car program is basically, I look at it as like it mirrored the program that I brought to you several years ago when we had the conversation about trying to tackle gun violence beforehand and not be proactive and not wait till the actual guns is being fired. And we're not talking about the data, that gun violence is down, because one gun in our community is one gun too many. When we look at, the age group that's carrying these guns right now, they 13, 14, and 15. And my proposal, to you now is the same proposal I had then. Just like the car program is set up, you have hot spots that has been identified in communities, in major, West Hill, Arbor Hill is a major, when you look at your mapping, where is identified as a hot spot. And like I say, the winter time is coming. I mean, the winter time is here, but the summertime is coming. You know, school will be out. You know, there'll be a lot of young minors, running the streets all hours a day. We already know by the data that you have that they're getting younger and younger carrying these guns. I would just like to ask, what is your long-term goal to address these hot spots once they get hotter?
So I'll get to, so thank you. So I'll get to, longer-term goal as far as the hotspots go. So I just want to clarify, the CAR team is not for gun violence. The CAR team is for, and I'm not saying.
I'm not saying that, I'm just
No,
saying
no,
it's
no, no.
mirrored.
I just-
Right, okay,
just-
all right.
I just want to be clear.
I understand
The
that.
CAR team is not for
I understand that.
responding to gun violence.
I
I just
understand that.
want to
Yeah,
make sure
I understand
we're
that.
clear. So the CAR team is,
We don't have to speak about the CAR team, Chief, I understand that. I'm just saying that is
No.
mirrored as far as when you
I-
have the first responders, you have the social workers, and where is that? The police doesn't
So-
have to be involved. I'm just saying that the
no,
way
no,
that
I-
is mirrored.
I am all for like snug, and I'm all for violence interruption. I'm all for that. I just want to make sure that we're clear that CART is for an alternative response.
I understand
to
that, Chief.
non-police related
You don't have
calls.
to, you don't have to
No, no,
expound
I-
on that, I understand.
no, no.
I'm very clear about, what
I
I'm saying,
just-
on the CAR program initiative.
Okay, I just want to make sure that.
Very clear
that was
about it.
clear. Thank you. And then when it comes to a curfew, I just want to make it like, I might have said babysitter, but what I want to make sure is that we don't wind up having a detrimental effect on relationships. So as we continue forward with that conversation, that's what I want to make sure we don't have. As far as the hotspots, I think we need to have a continued big picture strategy where we have, one, community involvement. Without community involvement, we can't solve this. The police can't do this on their own. So one, we need community involvement. Two, as you mentioned, those, they are younger and younger kids. So there needs to be alternative places for those kids to go. So, I love the mayor's plan of trying to figure out, where do we make sure kids have a safe place to go? And a place where they can get resources, a place they can get engaged with people that are gonna help determine, what it is those kids and their families need to help them prosper. So that way they can get in the right place. But I think that we need to make sure that we're being proactive. So we've been doing a lot of different things. One of the things we've been doing is we've been trying to be focused on the youth. And we've been having youth call-ins. And we've been having our youth that are involved in gun violence come into a room, not unsimilar to this, and having discussions about the fact that they are valued members of this community and that they have been identified as being involved in gun violence. Most of them are on probation for gun violence, and that they're going to wind up either in prison or in a coffin, and we don't want to see that. So we're trying to figure out how to make sure we connect them to mentors, and we have community members there, we have law enforcement there, and we have providers there, and we're trying to make sure that we get those kids before they wind up carrying a gun or pulling the trigger again. But again, as far as those identified hotspots, because you're right, it's not like we don't know the hotspots. We need to do more about making sure that there is more positive things to do in Arbor Hill and West Hill for our youth, that there is no reason for our kids to wind up beefing with each other and getting into it.
Okay, so, and now I would like to expound on the reason why I use the CAR program as a mirror to the initiative of the Gun-Involved Violence Elimination Program. Just like the CAR program has responders that respond with the police, because again, the conversation that we had in the past, when it come to this teenage curfew, And like you said, we had to be very careful for constitutional reasons to use the word curfew. But then again, I'm saying teenage. So if you teenage, you're the responsibility of your parent. So when you have teenagers that's running the street at 2 and 3 in the morning, right, the police sees this. So at this point, they notify rather a snug or whatever first responders it is to approach this baby. Where are you at? Do your mother know where you at? Bring the child home, have the conversation with the parent, right? Even if we have to create some type of court where that the parent has to come in, because what we want to do, we want to identify the demographics of these homes. We want to see if it's a mother and father. We want to see if it's food on the table. We want to see if these households is lacking just the necessities to even get by. So this is why when I proposed this years ago when we had the conversations, is the proactive part about it. We have to be able to identify these children that run in these streets 4 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, because you wouldn't have your 13-year-old child in the street on a hot zone or a hot block at 4 o'clock in the morning, just hanging out. So we have to be able to get to them child's homes and identify the demographics and what's in them homes. And this is why I said the mirror of the CAR program with the social workers, with the, with the first responders, where that the police can step back, and therefore now you have community members involved, whereas that you're not crossing that line of trust. Because we want to get into the homes. We want to try to identify, why is this child in the street at 3 o'clock in the morning? We want to save this child. If we can save this child before he finds himself involved with a gun charge or with a gun in his hand, and there's another Katrina Thomas incident, God forbid, in my community, from a ghost gun or from a gun that one child has when it's 13 kids running happen, and every one of them 13 kids have access to that one gun. Excuse me, we want to, I'm just saying be proactive, because the summertime is coming, and conversations is, conversations I just feel is needed. We don't want to wait till it happen, and then like my colleagues say, we turn on the news and the 16-year-old child was shot on 2nd and Judson. We shouldn't have to, if we can try to deal with some type of preventive measures, and like I say, it has nothing to do with the CAR program, but the CAR program could be a mirror of a gun-involved violence elimination program. And if we need to lobby the state for more funds, because to my understanding that most funds that come down through that program or through that grant is for administrative services, for data-driven, all that, but there's nothing on ground to actually live up to the gun-involved violence elimination. What the GIVE program is spelling for. So, if we have to lobby the state, if we have to lobby the mayor, I'm just saying, we have to just sit back and look, okay, this CAR program sure is addressing homelessness, is addressing mental illness, but what about our babies? How can we be proactive and get to them? How can we be proactive to get the guns out of their hands? Because data says that they are getting younger and younger. So, it's, I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop. I'm not. I'm going to be a strong advocate about teenage curfew, and we don't want to use the word curfew because we don't want to cross the lines of constitutional, but then again, they are babies. So therefore, their parents is held responsible for their actions. And even if we have to do a partnership with the county, I know that there's many judges that will be willing to just have a court system where that the parents and the child can come, and we just want to see, we want to try to identify, why is this child acting up? Is it because he don't have a father in the home? Is it because when he go home, his mother is smoking drugs and there's no food on the table? There's no bread to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich because it's underlying issues. They're not born into this mischief. You know, it's not something that's you know, it's just not. No, it's a learned behavior. You know, and if we can just as a community, as a city, try to horn in and try to be proactive on, even like I say, I know that word curfew is a scary word, but sometimes, man, we have to take a strong, you know, just to let them know that we're serious. And just like my colleague said, when something like that happened, a council member that represents that district, they should be amongst the camera, you know what I'm saying, along with you, along with the mayor, saying that we're not going to accept this. This is not acceptable in our city. And like I said, we got a lot of conversations coming, just getting started, but, you know, there's a lot of issues that has to be dealt with, and, you know, like I say, just getting one gun out of the hands of our children, I think that's a great feat, you know what I'm saying, to actually, you know what I'm saying, grow in our city.
Hey, Mark, I want to jump in real fast. We were working on legislation last year with your nephew, Jamel, and we got $500,000 to set up safety hubs. And we were not going to call it a curfew, we're going to call it child safety hours. And we still have that legislation. I mean, we can bring it back, right, because it expired. But, because I just talked to Jamel the other day about it, and you're absolutely right, but there is a way, and there's money there for us to use for that. So I just wanted to make sure that you're aware of that.
I just want to make sure the line of communication is open. It's public safety that we're talking about. Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else have anything for the chief? Oh, go ahead.
Thank you. I'll be super quick. Just wanted to bounce back on the ICE issue and the collaboration between our department and federal. So I know there was no cooperation. Is that also, and I know this, but I just wanted for anyone who's watching, does that also refer to any data or any information, any cameras that may be out there on the streets that people may have some concerns about, you know, any type of sharing of data or information?
Yes, that's correct. So I know that people get very worried about what we share data-wise, especially because there's a lot of stories out there about certain data, especially when it comes to, you know, one of the main ones that always gets out there is flock license plate readers, which we do have, but all data is ours. We only share with other law enforcement agencies that share back with us and that are local or state partners, and we do not share data with ICE.
Thank you, and I appreciate that, just so that anyone that's watching, they can have that peace of mind. And I'm not sure if I missed this, but just the numbers, I know you said we're down a few single numbers now with dispatchers. How are we doing with uniform officers?
I want to say we're down to, I think we're down 64 officers at this point, and we're canvassing right now to hire a new class.
Okay. Thank you. And the program that you started last year, bringing back retired officers, I know you mentioned you have 7 that are currently on, and we're looking to bring up another 5. Is that easing some of the stress that we've had with the just the labor shortage?
So I think it is. I think we'll have better data on that down the road. It took us a while to get that off the ground, but I believe that it is, and it's certainly adding benefits in a lot of different areas. So a couple of the officers are working the division desks. A couple of the officers are working in training and forensics and helping out. One of the officers, you know, I talked about health and wellness. One of the officers who's working in training just put together a whole training protocol for a CrossFit program, nutrition program. So it's paying off, not only, I think, in easing some of the stress level when it comes to staffing, but it's also bringing a wealth of knowledge in some other areas that we can always use help in.
Okay, thank you.
John?
Chief, one more question I want to ask you. Once the men and women when men and women graduate from police academy, how can you allow them to stay in Albany for 5 years, at least 5 years? Because the minute they graduate, they go on to Ravenna, Colony, Gilgillen. So how can we keep them here? You know, that I believe that that's a struggle right there, because as soon as they graduate, they jump in ship.
So that was not an issue that we used to deal with historically. That has been an issue that's definitely occurred over the past 5+ years. And it is definitely something that I've spoken to a lot of the young officers about. And, you know, one of the biggest complaints has been quality of life, has been the fact that when officers are getting mandated 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, and aren't getting any time off, and they can go to another department and get paid more money to not have to work that many hours and not have the same stress level, they're going to go. So, you know, my staff and the unions have worked on a lot of agreements, spent a lot of time trying to figure out how we ensure that officers get time off. That has been one of the biggest things. One of the reasons why we hired the Director of Health and Wellness was recognizing that we need to work on the health and wellness of our officers, and we need to keep officers, certainly everybody, but especially those newer officers. It's a culture issue. But, you know, certainly when, you know, as I said, you know, when we used to fight each other tooth and nail for overtime. That is not the situation we're in anymore. It is now to a point where we mandate officers to work, and we're mandating them to work long, long hours and then not giving them a day off. That's not acceptable. And I can't blame anybody for being like, why am I gonna stay here? Like, if I'm just being mandated to work, nobody seems to care, there's no attitude, that's not acceptable, and I'm not gonna lead that way. So we've done a lot of different things to try to make sure we do that. It is contractual how we ultimately mandate people to work. And unfortunately, because of our shortages, we do need to mandate people to work. So I agree wholeheartedly. We need to continue to work on that because we can't lose officers to those other departments, nor should we. In my first stint here, we had officers from those other departments, you know, all fighting to get here, not the other way around.
Go ahead, Deidre.
I appreciate the question very much and the answer, and I'd love to dive in a little bit deeper with your department to figure out what the actual data says about it, where available, obviously, what other municipalities within reasonable commuting distance are paying their officers, what hours they're working, and if there's a PR campaign that we need to wage. But I would love to understand the data that informs, I think, the question you were asking, Councilmember Williamson. I really appreciate knowing rather than feeling in a lot of these situations. So to the extent that we can work with you on that, I would love to be a part of that. Not to denigrate any of our local neighboring municipalities, but if there's an opportunity to perhaps dispel some myths, or if there's an opportunity to turn the mirror on ourselves and really ask, you know, is it this and maybe a combination of other things that are drawing officers elsewhere? I'd love to get to more of the root cause of that with you.
Yep. I agree 100%. I have no problem saying this, and it's not to denigrate any of those departments either, but this is the best department there is, plain and simple. So this should be the premier department, and not only in this area, but in this state, in this nation. And there should be no reason why anybody ever leaves.
All right, anybody else have any questions for the chief? Chief, we really appreciate you hanging out and talking to us. We're going to be working on legislation, and we'll be in touch with you, and you can be in touch with us. Oh, real fast, I provided the list to the chief of the full council, and I got delayed because a few people wanted to change their email and their phone numbers, so that's why the list came a little bit late, but it was actually because of Mark. Mark said, how come we're not getting phone calls? And I said, let me find out. So rather than ask somebody else to do it, I just took it upon myself to make sure that you and Megan had the updated list.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, take care, everybody.
And last but not least, we have Garrett Schapp, our CPRB coordinator. And does people want to take a bio break or for a minute, or? Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Garrett Schaff. I'm the program director of the CPRB. I want to take a minute to explain to you what the CPRB is. So the CPRB is a board that consists of 9 volunteers. 5 of them are appointed by this body, and 4 of them are appointed by the mayor's office. The primary responsibility of the CPRB is to conduct reviews, monitoring, or independent investigations into allegations of misconduct by the police department. When we do a review, what we are doing is we are reviewing the quality of the work from the Office of Professional Standards or the Internal Affairs Department from the Albany Police Department, and we are making recommendations on whether or not we agree with their outcomes on their investigations and their penalty recommendations should there be a sustained violation of policy. The other options that we have is we have the ability to monitor an investigation. When we monitor an investigation, we have an assigned individual that represents the CPRB that is not a board member, so currently those are contract providers, but eventually throughout this year we will staff the office and they will be staff employees of the city. They will work hand in glove with the Office of Professional Standards from the beginning of their investigation to the end of their investigation. So at the end of the investigative work, there should be very little daylight between what information was requested, what information was sought, what allegations were addressed. The only potential area where there will be divergence is the outcome of those investigations or the outcomes of those allegations. The third aspect of our work is independent investigations. Independent investigations can be launched by a majority vote of the board that regardless of whether or not a complaint was received related to a specific method of specific act of conduct. The independent investigations typically are going to occur contemporaneously or at the same time as the investigations with the police department, but in those instances, we are responsible for gathering all of the evidence, interviewing all of the individual parties, identifying allegations, and addressing it through that process. Currently, our independent investigations are handled by an independent contractor through a firm called T&M USA LLC, which is located in New York City. Their contract expired at the end of December and was not eligible to be renewed just based off of the terms of the contract. Most city contracts for service providers come with a fixed term and then up to 2 one-year extensions. They have exhausted all of their 2 one-year extensions. We are currently in the process of reviewing requests for responses to a request for proposal to resecure investigative services. That is something that will be discussed or is on the agenda to be discussed at our meeting next Thursday. That is in this chamber at 6 p.m. In addition to that, we also will be discussing requests for proposals related to our outside counsel. In July of last year, the outside counsel that the board had's contract expired, and there was internal conversations with the board and with the Common Council about how to proceed forward with that. The ultimate resolution was that a request for proposal had to be issued. We've received responses, and those are with the members to review and discuss potentially for selection at our meeting next Thursday. The board does do public meetings once a month. We meet the second Thursday of every month at 6 p.m. in these chambers. We are currently in the process of resuming work after having a short period at the end of last year where we lost quorum. I do want to make clear that the CPRB is in a phase of rebuilding. We had a lot of institutional knowledge that left the organization in the latter half of last year, and we have to rebuild that knowledge internally, both for myself and for the new members. We are also in the process of hiring staff for the 2026 year. We have 3 budgeted staff members. That is a confidential secretary or an administrative assistant, an investigator, and a senior investigator. We are in the process of, on Monday, in coordination with the clerk's office, I sent out invitations or emails to begin coordinating the confidential secretary interviews for the first round for next week. Those will be Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. The times have not been set yet. I will have those times set by the end of the day on Thursday this week. That information will be shared with the clerk and the chair of this committee. I know historically in the past, members of this committee as well as this body have participated in the hiring process for the CPRB, in part because we are employees of the council. So the council does have input and is ultimately the hiring authority of all staff, to include myself with the CPRB. At our meeting on Thursday, we will also be discussing the results of a community survey that we issued at the beginning of December of this year, or of last year, I'm sorry, to gain insight on how the community would like us to address a complaint backlog that we currently possess at the CPRB, and if the CPRB should recommend to this body considering changing the requirements for board membership. In addition to that, we currently have 3 vacant seats on this board. 2 of those seats are with the mayor's office. They are mayoral appointed seats. My understanding is the mayor's office is working on identifying candidates and making appointments. We recently had a member resign and created a 3rd vacancy, which is a vacancy that is filled by this body. I do want to note that earlier last year, when we were filling the vacancies from this body, we had several candidates that we interviewed. We also have we've received additional additional candidates or people that are interested in the board. So there is the ability to fill the seat relatively quickly should be needed. I also want to address the background issues that we've been having. I know background checks have been a problem. We are working, when I say we, myself and the clerk's office are working on developing a specific protocol to ensure that we do not encounter the same issue that we encountered with two of our recent board members in the last 24 months. That process will involve potentially updating the call for applications to make it clear that background checks will be required and expected of potential members, identifying where in the process to have those background checks done, and the best vendor or the best process, whether that is internal to the city or through a third-party vendor to provide those contracting or to those background services, because we want to make sure that we're seating not only a quantity of members to have the full 9, but we want to make sure we're getting good members on the board that are prepared and capable and ready to do the necessary work. In regards to the work of this board, I am a firm believer that this board serves three big benefits. The first benefit is it improves the relationship between the community and its law enforcement agency by fostering collaborative communication and mutual understanding of the objectives on both sides of the equation. The second thing is it makes police officers' lives safer. If we do our job well, police officers' lives and members of the community's lives are safer. If this board also works really well, and this would be a benefit to this body, it's a liability reduction. We reduce liability. Programs that are successful in police oversight, as time progresses, result in less claims or less allegations or lawsuits related to excessive force or rights violations, therefore mitigating that liability risk for the government entity that they're representing. Are there any questions?
Do you want to mention the stipend?
Oh, yes, so all of our board members do receive a stipend. That stipend is currently $250 a month, and it is paid out through the city payment process. So there is a slight lag from the month that you work until the month that you get the stipend, but you do ultimately receive a stipend.
Anybody have any questions? Go ahead, Deidre.
Thank you again for presenting tonight. I know we've had some discussions leading up to this, so I appreciate the level of detail that you add during all of these cumulative conversations. Just to be extraordinarily clear, no one will be hired without a clean background check confirmed in receipt of the CPRB going forward.
The CPRB does not hire staff or appoint members. Appointed members are either the purview of the mayor's office, which is 4 of the 9 members, or the purview of this board. I am working with this body and the clerk's office to ensure that we are having a background protocol that will be adhered to, but ultimately the decision to seat a member or to hire a member of staff rests with this body.
Understood. Let me rephrase the question, because you answered the question I asked, so thank you for that. But nobody will be able to progress through the hiring process without this body or the mayor's office having the results of a background check in hand.
That is the direction we are working towards. We are still developing that protocol, but yes.
Okay. While that is in development, though,
While that is in development, we currently have no board members waiting to be appointed.
Okay.
My understanding is the mayor's office, when she makes her announcements of who she will be appointing to the board, will be coming to the table with completed background checks.
Great, thank you.
One last thing, so I am required by city law to provide a biannual report, so a report once every 6 months on the progress of the board specifically related to complaint reviews. That report is currently with membership for review. It will be published and issued to this body in the mayor's office no later than the 20th of this month.
Thank you. So if there's no further questions, we appreciate it, Garrett. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Okay.
There's,
All in favor?
aye.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you for hanging out